Welcome to another match preview here on Stones TV and the Maidstone United podcast, where we look ahead to our latest return league home game against visitors, relegation threatened Salisbury. So a couple of games in the last week, culminating in the narrow defeat at Eastbourne Borough. But firstly, apart from the sanitation, the medicine, education, wine, public order, irrigation, roads, fresh water system and public health, as well as giving us Solwan Jar Smith on loan and now 4 points from 6 in the head-to-head this season, what have the Romans ever done for us? That sentence was brought to you in association with Adam McKay and the Monty Python crew. Nigel, that was a great second half for the Stones on Saturday, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. You know, after a few sort of poor halves of football, I mean, I think we went 7 halves of football without actually scoring a goal, wasn't it?
So, like that from Fred, very nice.
Yeah, so to get 3 in the second half, and then we did play well. Do you know what I mean? We did, you know, back to where we was. I think the change of the game was the new signing coming in, Tom Lee coming in, and you know we had a real impact in that second half, didn't it? We come on to talk about the new signings in a minute, but it was good impact, and you know he was direct running. I mean, defenders don't like that, do they? No. You know, if you're running with pace, you know, and even a couple of lost causes, he was chasing down, keeping the ball in play. So yeah, it was all positive, and I think what that does do as well, it releases Aaron up a lot more. Yeah. So I think with him playing in that sort of like traditional number 9 role, I know he's got the number 9 on his back, but where they would play in like the big centre backs at the back, it's easy to mark him because he's not making that run, and I think he's at his best when he's like going down the left and attacking down the right, and you know, and causing defenders all kinds of problems. And it noticed in that second half, I say we got that first goal, and then he got his second goal, didn't he? Aaron Blair got the second goal. So it was kind of like, you know, they were like rabbits in headlights there, and they didn't know which way to go, did they? And it's like they obviously came with a game plan to set up and, you know, keep it tight, nick a goal where they can. And once they win that first goal down, they just couldn't switch that sort of tactics and that play to get back into the game. And I think it was quite comfortable in the end, as the scoreline suggested. It was just good to get back to winning ways, wasn't it, in front of a good crowd in front of the Gallagher Stadium.
It was, and a less comfortable result from Tuesday night, Nigel. Eastbourne rounded off a quite difficult month for the Stones, some might say. Only 7 points from 18 in the finish. They've now not scored on the road since Weymouth in mid-January. Eastbourne, on the other hand, of course, they're unbeaten at home in the league now for over 11 months, and their last loss there in the league was that 5-1 Stones win last Easter. So, Tuesday, how was it for you?
They took their chance that they had, but you know, we had chances. It's not as if it was like a boring set up to be a boring 0-0. It was probably going to be a 1-goal game either way. But again, like these head-to-heads, I mean, we saw earlier in the month, at the start of the month, when we played Torquay here at home, that was, you know, we deserved to win on that day, but it was always going to be tight. It was always going to be one game that wins it. And we got the better of that. And of course, we did beat Eastbourne here at home, so we're not, it's 3 points each a piece this season. So again, all right, they had the bragging rights on the night, but I think with the new signings coming in, we've now got to sort of like try and embed them into, so that when we do come to those playoffs, which, you know, I'm sure we're going to make the playoffs.
Fingers crossed, yeah.
You know, there's still plenty of points to play for, so you know it's going to be interesting, isn't it? But you know, I think if we can hit those playoffs on a run of form, we'll be fine. It's just about sort of like, you know, taking each game as it comes, as George and that always say in their press conferences. You know, it's just about focusing on the next opponent and taking each game as it comes. And again, going back to that word, that bounce back ability. So
they needed it a lot more recently than we have done in a few months before.
Exactly. So again, as well, we, you know, there's even, you know, looking around the league, you know, Bourne would have now sort of picked up, but Worthing are on a run of form where they've lost a couple of games on the spin, and probably, you know, by far greater margins than what we did. You know, they went to Slough and lost 4-0, didn't they? So
did the other week,
So it's again, we said there's going to be peaks and troughs in this promotion race sort of thing, whether that be through the championship or in the playoffs and the teams that make those playoffs. It's certainly not set in stone. There's going to be a lot of movement and fluidity in those positions. So it's just about trying to sort of get these new players gelled in and sort of trying to find that creative spark, I think.
Yeah.
whether we get another player in, who knows? But I'm sure everyone's looking and they want that sort of.
All of them do.
Yeah,
I think.
exactly.
Yeah.
All teams are making signings, and we can make signings up until I think it's the last Thursday of March, isn't we? So
something along those lines.
There's no transfer deadline as such. So it's just about getting the right players to come in and give us that final push, I think.
So we will come to the couple of players that the Stones have signed very recently, but we'll refer to the peaks and troughs, as Nigel puts it, of the top 8 sides in the last couple of match days. Saturday, Torquay blew a 2-0 half-time lead at Chelmsford, losing 3-2, conceding in the 89th and 93rd minutes. Dorking also lost a 2-0 lead at home to Farnborough. They equalised in the 80th minute, 2-2 at Meadowbank, the final score. Eastbourne also let a 2-goal lead slip 2-0 and 3-1 up via that second consecutive George Alexander hat-trick against informed Hemel Hempstead. They scored twice in 8 second-half minutes for that to finish 3 apiece. Boreham Wood won their local derby 3-1 at St Albans. Truro earned a 2-0 home win over Slough. And Weston-super-Mare needed a late Luke Coulson penalty to bag a 3-1 home win against Hampton and Richmond. And finally, Worthing won 3-2 at home to Salisbury, who we will get to talking about, I'm sure. Despite trailing until the 77th minute, 3 goals in 7 second-half minutes meant a stoppage time. Watts' consolation was only that for Salisbury. So Saturday evening's table saw Dorking 4 clear of Eastbourne and Worthing. Boreham Wood 1 back, Truro another 1 back. The Stones and Torquay both on 59. Weston still trying to get back into the top 7 on 57. And that would all change on Tuesday. Truro dropped 2 points at home to Weymouth. That finished 1 apiece. Weston and Torquay shared that same scoreline. Worthing hosted Farnborough and lost 2-1, despite Mo Fowl giving them an early lead. Boreham Wood snuck past Chelmsford by a second-half Whelan goal to 0. So with only 2 of the top 8 sides winning on Tuesday, the table now, at the time we record, going into March, Weston on 58 in 8th, the Stones on 59 in 7th, Torquay on 60 in 6th, Truro 61 in 5th, Worthing on 62 in 4th, and then somewhat spoiling the pattern, Boreham Wood on 64 in 3rd, Eastbourne 65 in 2nd, and Dorking on 66 remain top. So Nigel, hashtag never dull in National League South. I'm going to keep doing that, but also hashtag no one wants to run away with it still, presumably.
No, exactly. I mean, I know Dorking didn't play on Tuesday night. They had a Surrey Cup game that they played, but they were sort of, that was the chance for other teams to sort of play their games in hand and catch up, but no one did. Again, it's like you say, there's been a lot of times this year where there's, like Truro early season were right at top, weren't they? And teams had games in hand on them, they just couldn't win those games in hand. But then the team that is top are not winning their games either, so it just keeps that bunch all sort of configurated, and I think that's going to be the case until the end of the season. You sort of look at a points target of around 80 points, don't you? Around that sort of, and that's going to be good enough to get you
7 wins from 11, isn't it?
So
you'd hope for maybe.
And again, it's going to depend on what games. If we win those 3 games that I've just mentioned, then you're stopping
18 points, isn't
it?
In inverted commas,
exactly. You're then stopping the other teams getting a point. So, even a point against those teams wouldn't be so bad, would it? So, there's certainly more sort of twists and turns in this promotion race yet.
So a couple of new bodies were added to the front line over the last week or so. We've already mentioned Tom Leahy, of course, who had his cameo in the second half against Bath. He's on loan from Millwall until the end of the season. And Ruben Shackpoke was last at Enfield via some time in the States, apparently. Both have had substitute appearances in the last 2 games. Leahy's, I've already mentioned, slightly more influential of the 2 cameos, but they are exciting young forwards both, Nigel.
Yeah, and that's it, isn't it? Everyone's sort of focusing on the fact that Shackpoke was at Enfield not recently, but he has had experience at West Brom and Aston Villa, and all good academies. And I think West Brom actually signed him on a proper professional contract from Aston Villa. So after a trial, so it's promising there, isn't it? And it's like all these players, you just got to take a punt on them, can't you? They've all got to start somewhere. So they're all relatively in their early 20s, so it's just one of those that they're all gambles, aren't they? It's whether we can just get them integrated into the squad and get them playing our system of play.
Got some other player news to bring you, and it's relating to the Academy section. They have reached the National Academy Cup Southern Final. The Stones beat Dover Athletic Academy by 3-1 on Monday afternoon. That was Elliot Wenham, Tyler Hatton and Alfie Wincott on the score sheet. Billy Jones' side will face Slough Town in the Southern Final at Arbour Park on Wednesday the 19th of March at 2 p.m. Maidstone are the current Southern and National Cup holders. The competition follows the same format this season as it did last. North and South Cup winners going head to head to decide the overall winner. So another trip to St George's Park possibly in the offing there, Nigel. Full credit to the youth set up at the club, and will likely reap more benefits on the pitch in the years ahead, hopefully.
You know, we do know that we've had a lot of, not just this season, but past season. You know, there is an age bracket obviously in those squads, isn't there? So, you know, it's just about getting the players all football. You know, getting them gelling together, and we've had a good talent there, and you know, well done to Bill and his team for getting those sort of talents gelled into a team that find themselves in a second consecutive Southern Final. You know, and hopefully, you know, they can defend that cup, and then, as you say, go to St George's Park and take on the North winners.
So comings and goings since last we played before Christmas. Finally talking about Salisbury, in case you think we'd forgotten. Midfielder and fullback Lewis Brown joined on loan from AFC Bournemouth in early January. Shortly after that, Reece Byrne arrived on loan from Leyton Orient to provide cover in goal with injuries to both Dan Lincoln and Alex Rutter. He played for Dartford at the end of last season. Dan Fitchett returned for his fourth spell at the Raymac. His goals were key in helping Salisbury gain promotion to the South last season. Carlos Gregory joined on loan from, you guessed it, AFC Bournemouth at the end of January. The young midfielder spent 6 years at Southampton prior to his current stint with the Cherries. And the last transfer at time of recording, that was the first week of February, seeing Alex Rutter move to Plymouth Parkway for a fee. The first time they've paid a fee for a keeper, Plymouth Parkway there. He joined former Salisbury City striker Chris McPhee, who's the manager at Parkway. So Nigel, not too many changes during the last 10 weeks or so, and they've sort of hovered around the same position since then as well, haven't they?
Yeah, exactly. And like we said in our preview video for the previous games we played against them, this season for them, as well as the likes of Cheshire, it's just about trying to bed themselves into this league, isn't it? You know, they're a club that have got ambitions. They've been to this level and higher before. You know, before they went into liquidation. You know, they've got a good stadium down there. They was in the National League. I don't think they got relegated by rights. I think it was only the money trouble. I think they finished a top half. Finished that first season they was in there. Not recently. So yeah, you know, it's just a club that's comfortable at this level, but you know, you could have the finances and the stadium and the infrastructure behind you, but if you haven't got the team in place to sort of get you there, then it counts nothing, does it? So, as I say, I think it's all about them this season, just trying to bed their way in and trying to pick up as many points as they can and see where it takes them. And I think, you know, they've been comfortable, like you say, in that around about that mid-table, top half of the middle table, you know, bottom half of the table, weren't they, all season? So yeah, it's like all games in this league. You know, you expect another game. You know, they're going to raise their game coming here to the Gallagher, aren't they? You know, another 2,000 plus crowd, and you know, we've got something to play for. So the pressure's really going to be on them and us on. The pressure's going to be on us and off of them, really, isn't it? So you know, it's about us managing the game and hopefully getting that early goal again. Like I always say, you know, if you get that early goal, it does kind of mess up the other team's sort of preparations, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, you know, and hopefully with that little bit more weeks training with the new guys we've got in, will just sort of help them as well, and we can sort of see some goals like we all want to see. Yeah,
and in terms of Salisbury's form since last we played them as well, off the back of that, Nigel, they've played 14 games since last we met. They lost, like a few other clubs have done already, of course, to Sittingbourne in the FA Trophy in round 4. That leaves 13 league games in that period, 3 wins, home to Welling, and then 2 away wins, Chippenham and Weston-super-Mare. So they know how to play the big boys, didn't they? 6 draws, only 4 defeats in that time. Those were at home to Dorking and Chelmsford, and on Tuesday lost home to Bath. Quite a big tie, that one, in the finish. And on the road, they lost at Worthing, of course, we mentioned a little earlier. The fact that they play at Aveley 48 hours after our game on Saturday, they played there on Monday, that's another huge 6-pointer for them. It's not many defeats in that time, but, you know, like many others down there, just can't seem to get far enough away from it. They're just always there, aren't they?
No, yeah, that's right. But, you know, whether they will sort of have that Aveley game on their mind, I know, you know, going off the back of the Eastbourne game, George is now sort of like trying to manage his players, isn't he? Like, George came off with a slight problem,
The hip,
and then
we did wonder
that, like we say, Tom Lee, you know, he's not used to playing 90 minutes of men's football, so again, it's just managing him and trying to get his minutes in. And I imagine the same would be with Shaq Poke as well, to get him, you know, up to speed and manage his minutes. So, yeah, all managers are doing it this time of year. They've all, you know, it's not quite. There's no team that's really on the beach yet, is there? So they've all sort of got something to play for. So, you know, but like I always say, it's about us managing our team, isn't it? You know, you can't control what the opposition do.
Yeah.
You know, yes, if they've got a long throw specialist, or, you know, they like to, you know, pile balls in the box and they've got a free kick take or something like that. Yes, obviously we'll identify that, but ultimately it is about getting our ducks all in a row and getting us sort of sorted, and hopefully that takes care of itself.
Well, those key men for Salisbury, who presumably, as Nigel's already alluded to, are quite far away from the beach from their performances this season. Dan Lincoln, 3 clean sheets during his 10 league games before that aforementioned injury he picked up that led to Reece Burns' arrival. He got 2 clean sheets in his first 2 league games for the Whites before conceding in each of his next 8. Josh Somerton has been the mainstay in the Salisbury defence this season. His solitary goal so far was in a 4-3 win at St Albans back in October. And another Josh, Hedges, still tops their scoring charts for this season. His 8 goals have helped them earn about 15 points this season, just a little shy of half of their tally. And they're yet to lose when he's scored as well, stat fans. His most recent strike, a 94th minute equaliser at Chesham in a 2-2 draw the other Saturday. So Nigel, looks like a lot of the youth players that Salisbury have kept faith with have helped them, as I keep saying today, tread water up to this point.
Yeah, that's right. And that's, you know, they've got to be happy with their season. I suppose maybe they would have liked a cut run, but, you know, they are pretty much, I think they're going to be safe. I don't think, you know, there's going to be that, you know, there's quite a few, although they're sort of in that sort of position, there's quite a few teams between them and the relegation zone, isn't there? So, yeah.
I'm still intrigued, especially with the head-to-head against Aveley. I know Aveley, I think it's Aveley and Weymouth about 9 away from safety at the moment, but they could, you know, when you're down there, you could get dragged in by some of those.
Yeah, of course you could.
Big matches.
Yeah, of course you can.
I hear what you say. I do feel they may well have enough.
Yeah, exactly. And it's sort of like, obviously they're going to be looking over their shoulders, but, you know, it just goes back to that point, isn't it? Their fight isn't with us. You know, it's against, so their biggest game this weekend is that Aveley game, isn't it?
It
so
is.
Anything they get from the Gallagher would just be a booster, you know, going into that game. But then again, you don't want to be overconfident going into that game, because we've seen what Aveley come here, didn't we? And then they've got that 2-0 victory, and then, you know, they've gone and proceeded to lose the next 2 games. So, you know, sometimes that yes, it's all right in that moment, but in the longer term, is it really good for you to go, you know, really try your effort here when you've got bigger games coming up? So again, that's for them to sort of manage their squad, and they know their players and they know their squad. It's like I always come back to saying, it's about us taking care of ourselves, isn't it?
Exactly.
So, you know, you can look at all these sides and find out all the little nuances that they've got and the ways that they play and the ways they set up, and, you know, any surprises that they can throw at us. But ultimately, if we don't perform to our standards, we don't perform to the best of our abilities, we're going to come unstuck, as we found out against Aveley here a couple of weeks back. So it's about, you know, our management team drumming that into the boys. And, you know, like I think Ben Brooks has posted out today on one of his Instagrams, 11 cup finals to go, and that's basically how you've got to look at it, isn't it? You know, because every team raises their game against Maidstone, so it's about us, you know, our attitude being right and taking care of business out on the pitch.
Exactly. So if you can't remember all of the players from the previous meeting, then why not head back to our previous preview video on the podcast from this season for more information on Saturday's opponents. I think we did 2 of them in the end for Salisbury, didn't we? So your Sportford choice. The links to the video and podcast are both in the description below. And if you can't make it to the game on Saturday, be sure to tune in to Fred and Alex from 2:40 on Stones Live. You'll see them on the hot take and then hear them on the highlights once they go online. Well, I have joked about Peter Gabriel and aunts and uncles the last two times we have previewed Salisbury hosting the Stones. So to combine the two, here you go. Peter Gabriel's great uncle, Sir Thomas Gabriel, the first baronet, was Lord Mayor of London from 1866 to 1877. So here's hoping it's not a case of after the Lord Mayor's show on Saturday. See, you get what you pay for. Our thanks to you all out there, as ever, for watching or listening to the latest preview. Like and subscribe on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. You know what to do. Search the Maidstone United podcast. We'll see or hear you for our next preview ahead of the away league game at Hornchurch. And as always,
come on, you Stones.